So the Steelers are currently sitting at a 5-3-1 record. I can't believe I have to throw the 1 in at the end of the 3 because the Pittsburgh Steelers tied the Detroit Lions last week, which in my opinion, it feels like a loss just because the Lions are the pretty much one of the worst teams in the NFL this year. They haven't won a game yet. And granted, Ben Roethlisberger did not play in that game last week against the Lions. He tested positive for COVID-19, and he was held out of that game because of that. So, despite the tie against the Lions, though, the Steelers had been surging of late. They have been winning a couple of their games. So, they're not definitely a bad team. They've had their ups and downs this year. But that tie against the Lions, I thought that was a bad look from the Steelers. And then to kick it over to Los Angeles has really been on a skid the last couple of weeks. They lost against the Patriots. They lost against the Vikings. They've lost some really close games here. And they are currently sitting at a 5-4 record. And when I look at this matchup on paper, this is a really tough one for me to pick because both teams have been struggling in their own ways. But it's quite surprising to me just the fall off that the Chargers have had. The beginning of the year, Justin Herbert was having a phenomenal sophomore season. And the connections that he was able to establish with Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, Austin Eckler out of the backfield, it was phenomenal. And then after that bye week, they played New England, and nothing's really been right ever since. We've seen Justin Herbert kind of go into a sophomore slump, to put it like that. And we've seen the targets as far as Mike Williams go really drop off in the last couple of weeks. And really you've seen Justin Herbert try to focus the ball on getting the ball to Keenan Allen more than Mike Williams. Because up until the bye week, both Mike Williams and Keenan Allen's targets were essentially even. But Justin is definitely targeting Keenan Allen more than Mike Williams, and the offense has sputtered because Mike Williams is definitely capable of that long ball threat, and they haven't been able to hit on those home run shots like where they were able to earlier on in the season. So the defense is giving up points. LA's offense has been looking suspect the last couple of weeks, and that's really the position that they're in. And then to kick it over to the Steelers are in a tricky situation here because we don't know whether or not that Ben Roethlisberger is going to be able to play in this game. So he has to get through the COVID protocols, and we don't really know if he's going to be able to go for this game. And if he doesn't, that means that Mason Rudolph is going to step in. And I don't have a lot of faith in Mason Rudolph after the fact that he tied against the freaking Detroit Lions last week. That is not a good look. So it's like I said, this is going to be a tough game for me to pick. And if I had to put a prediction on this one, I'm going to go with the Chargers here. I don't have a lot of faith in this one, but I have enough faith to go with them because there's too many question marks on Pittsburgh's side. If Big Ben doesn't play, I think it basically means that the Chargers should win this game because there's no way that Mason Rudolph is going to be able to go on the road and beat the Chargers by just outscoring them. I just don't see that. And, granted, I know they have great targets to throw to in Deontay Johnson, Chase Claypool. They have Najee Harris out of the backfield. All of those guys are dynamic in their own way. I would have more faith if Ben Roethlisberger was throwing the ball to those targets. But with Mason Rudolph possibly in there, I just don't see that happening. And the Chargers got to get this going at one way or another. Justin Herbert has got to get it into gear because he has really been struggling of late. And I do think that this is a great opportunity for LA to get back on track here. Just a couple weeks ago, the Chargers were at the top of the AFC West, right alongside the Las Vegas Raiders. And yet, in under a month, we've seen the Chargers slip to basically third place in that division. And now the Chiefs have retaken that number one spot in the AFC West. So the Chargers really got to get it together. I think that Justin Herbert is going to have a solid game in this one. I think he's going to throw for somewhere around 275, maybe 325 yards passing, somewhere within that range. I do believe that he will be able to march that offense up and down the field. But I will have to say this, though. The Chargers need to have a good game from Austin Eckler. Did not have a good game last week in Week 10. He was held relatively in check. I don't even think he ran for over 50 yards in that game last week. So hopefully the Chargers get him some carries and they're able to open up some run lanes for him against that Pittsburgh Steelers defense. But I think this is going to be a gritty game. I think with both of these teams kind of struggling in their own way, I think it's going to be a decent scoring game. I think both teams are going to be able to score somewhere around 20 points. I think the Chargers are going to score somewhere around 27 points, 28 points, where I'm kind of favoring them at this point. I think the Steelers are going to score somewhere around 20. I don't think they're going to be able to crack over 25 points in this game, but I'm more leaning on the fact that they're going to score around 20 points in this game. And it's just because if Mason Rudolph is playing for them, that's pretty much the limit that I see him getting to. And Big Ben, if he's able to play in this game, that Pittsburgh offense has really had a difficult time of being an explosive one. Granted, last year they got off to a great start, started at 11-0, and then they completely fell off. And then this team has been up and down, to say the least, even with Big Ben in. So if Big Ben does play in that game, maybe they get to 24 points, but I still believe even if Big Ben were to play in this game, I would still favor the Chargers in this one. Granted, it would be a tighter margin, but I just think that with the Chargers at home, they need to get back on track. I think they get it done here. Granted, it will be in close fashion, but I do believe the Chargers improved to 6-4 on the season, and then the Steelers would fall back to 5-4-1 on